For the hip flow warm-up, we want to move through the major ranges of motion of the lower body, starting with hip extension, eventually moving to hip flexion on the opposite hip, and I'm starting here with light pulses to finally move to hip abduction. That way we've got all different ranges of motion covered of the lower body that are relevant for later acrobatics. Here I'm starting with small bounces and I'm repeating the same sequence on the other side as well. For me, these slow bounces are really comfortable, they feel good in the body, it's something I can do even if I'm completely cold, and I gently open up the ranges. Once I've visited all three ranges on both sides, hip extension, hip flexion, and hip abduction, I start to move around a little bit more freely. So from the pulses, eventually changing, finding slightly different variations, and here over time it starts to turn more into a free flow. For me, that way I know within 90 seconds or maybe 2 minutes, I can get warm, I can feel how my hip is feeling for the day, I can increase the ranges of motion slightly so that whatever I do afterwards in acrobatics, it will feel a little bit easier already. Essentially, I'm using this time to check in with myself in a very playful, gentle way. Where am I at? Where do I want to be? Where do I want to go? Maybe even what do I want to do in the session? And once I get a little bit warm, usually I start to feel ready and already want to move on to the next task, which is why this usually just takes 90, maybe 120 seconds for me.